I am honored that you came out to celebrate with us. I've been here since July. I was named principal in July. And I want to share a story real quick with you. Yesterday morning I came in, unlocked the doors to the cafeteria as normal, probably about 7:30, and this former graduate showed up. And he had a rough night, had a rough morning, and he didn't know where else to go. He knew he wanted to go to a safe place, a place that people helped him, and so he came to Venture. I hope I can share with you why we do that, and most of you know how we do that. But Venture goes way beyond me arriving here. 30 years ago, Venture started, and that's an amazing milestone for a school such as us. One thing I can say for sure is great things are happening at Venture. My hope is that you get a small glimpse of those things that happened in the past and what we have things coming in the future. And we have an amazing support staff. Ms. Hollinger supporting me in my first year, as well as everyone else on the stage. And so as we go forward, we celebrate, and we hear that we're a premier school district and that we have a strategic plan that 100% of our kids will graduate, and we are a part of that strategic plan because we make sure kids graduate. We made the connections with Career Tech Center. It's an amazing facility. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it. We've worked with Turning Point High School, Collegiate High School, and the 6 traditional schools. And we're trying to partner to make a better connection and a better road to Venture. Great things are happening. At our intake orientations, I asked the kids, how many of you love school? Like last week, how many of you love school? And I've had 0 students raise their hand. And I have 3 kids at home and a loving wife, Bridget, and my kids love to go to school. They go to Pope, and they love to go to school. So there's some disconnect. There's something that students lose between elementary and that high school. They lose the love, the direction, the drive, the ability to master those things they need to be successful. I tell them, you know, we all have a purpose. We all have a story. And I tell them, you belong here. You may not feel like you do today, but you do. You belong here. And after a couple weeks, you'll see them perk up, and you'll see a smile, and they'll know that they do belong. Some of you have heard their stories, some of you hadn't, and so they are some amazing stories. And so as we go forward, you know, you can like us on Facebook, on Twitter. That's one of those little disclaimers. That way you can see what we're doing. But I would also say many of you probably wonder, well, how do we get the kids to do what they do? Like, how do we get them to be successful? Is it a gimme? You just give them credits? And I would say, let me tell you how. We have the most nurturing staff in the whole district, and I'll tell anybody that. The social workers, to the counselors, to the assistant principal, to the teachers and staff. The whole staff is very nurturing, and bar none, the best in the district. And that's the only way you could work here. That's the only way our kids will be successful, is if we're nurturing to them. If you drill down to it, you know, how do you get to that point? You got to know where the kids are and where they're coming from. You got to know what they're going through. And the big high schools are big. It is what it is. But here at Venture, we are lucky to do what we do. When I arrived, staff members told me that we were the best kept secret in AISD. Now, I knew what they meant. They didn't mean that we were a secret, but they meant that some people didn't quite understand sometimes what we do. And I told them, well, if you know anything about me, I thought, man, we're going to change. We're not going to be a secret anymore. And so even if it's Facebook or what have you, we're definitely not a secret. We are all things to all students. We change lives. We make miracles happen. We've done that for 30 years. We've helped students succeed when at times they even thought they couldn't. We are a hodgepodge of 30 years of people, buildings, furniture, and curriculum. We've taken what we've been given and we made something from it. Through all that change over the years, one thing stays constant. We support all students, especially those at-risk students, and we help them gain a path of success. Great things are happening at Venture. 30 years ago, I was in Miss Harville's class. There was something different about Miss Harville. She knew my family. That was one thing. It was a small town in Arkansas. But she never gave up on her students. She never gave up on me. One day I got in trouble for talking, and I'm not that big of a talker when I'm not in school, but in school I like talking now. But I think every principal should like talking, but back then I liked talking, and she moved me by her desk so I would behave. And then I talked to her so much, she moved me away from her desk to the other side of the room, and that's a true story. So, but she never gave up on me. And our teachers that are here today, they don't give up on our students. They may be frustrated, they may have a hard day, but you know what? They never give up on our kids. And that's how we're different. Not every day, not every year has been perfect at Venture, but there are continual success stories. They're priceless to hear each of them. You'll hear from Miss Pickle. She'll give about 5 minutes or so in a little bit that she was one of the first graduates at Venture. I mean, I could only imagine, I wasn't here in the 80s, but I could imagine Venture probably wasn't the premier program. It might have even been taboo back then to go to Venture. But she's going to share with us from that. All the way to Mr. Porter starting our program, Mr. DeMore, Miss McReynolds. Like, we're the lucky ones. We're the lucky ones in this equation. As we move forward, we're looking to change many things to support our students. We're moving toward a blended learning online curriculum created by our teachers to ensure that they have relevant, rigorous learning opportunities. We gained 180 Chromebooks here recently. Dan Diapert, we got a $9,000 grant through the Education Foundation. We've got our virtual reality Google goggles right over on the table so you can see them. And as we go forward to holograms and other creative things, it's how do we keep our kids engaged and how do we keep them intrigued with school, because that's what they've lost. As you can guess, we do not have a choir to showcase, so that's why I said we've done that. But we are going to work next year to add one. We're going to try to add a vocal music as well as modern instruments. It might be pretty cool, so you may want to come visit. The things that we are showcasing around the room, we have art with Mr. Bruno. His students are pretty amazing. Our AV program, our CT courses, as well as our core classes. We have things around here. If you didn't sign in the front over here, sign in. The social workers and Miss Wright then put together a case of 30 years of pictures. It's pretty cool. I'm sure you could find a few things there that's pretty interesting. We have the pictures of the 4 principals and the newsletters that I do every week, but we just want to be proud of what we do. Great things are happening here. To date, we have 112 graduates this year. This last week we had 16. That's the record for any week that we can think of, but records are made to be broken. We're surpassing our rate of graduations from last year, and we're going to add summer too, not as a punishment, but we're going to add extra time for kids to work on classes this summer. We're nearing 5,000 graduates, and I guess we could have another party next year, maybe not this big, but 5,000 graduates. Probably 5,000 students, probably 4,000 that wouldn't have graduated. Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. But they did here, and so next year we're going to hit that mark. We've earned 2,500 half credits, which is really surpasses what they would have done even at their home campus if they would have been on pace. Ms. Parsons has helped with students recovering their absences. That's definitely a concern. And we just make progress every day. Great things are happening at Venture. We meet the students where they're at, and we take them to the next level. We make dreams come true. Miracles happen. We support the students to bridge those struggles that they have. Today we celebrate, but we don't stop here. We keep pushing toward bigger and better things. Venture's moving towards a creative schedule. Next year we'll have our central offices helped approve that, and we're going to go towards the half-day, whole-day model. And they've also granted us transportation, so we'll have about 5 bus runs to help our kids get to and from school. The district supports Venture, I support Venture, all the teachers support Venture. And as we go forward, there's going to be bumps and kinks next year, I promise. But we're going to do good things. And great things will continue to happen at Venture. So thank you for being here. We will never stop helping kids. I can promise you that one thing. We will always help kids. Ms. Hollinger is our campus area superintendent. She's going to join us next, say a few words, and thank you for being here.
First of all, I'd like to say I think we need to give another round to the band that played. Great job. What a great way to start off this evening by saying the creative ways that we go about supporting our students, taking words and transforming them to meet the needs of the students and having them connect with the students. A great example of what the staff and teachers and the district overall do, and the community as well, to support the students at Venture. So 30 years, Venture has been in place to support our students' potential at meeting the reality that they're meeting. I was 15 years old when my sister dropped out of high school. And coincidentally, it was 2 years before Venture opened up. It was another district, however. But what I would have given for this opportunity to be there for my sister. She needed a untraditional support system. It wasn't until she was later in her adult life that she was able to go back and get her GED. I was speaking to one of the students here at the campus the other day. She's 17 years old and is about 4 months, is going to be graduating. She told me, in her words, not mine, I used to be bad. You know, we're not allowed to say that, right? I used to be bad. And it kind of helped that Mr. Meeks knew her when she was in junior high, when he's an assistant principal. And he kind of tagged along with the stories that she could share about her bad days. And she said, now I see myself as having opportunities for good, making good decisions, making decisions that are what's right for me and my goals that I want to accomplish. And when Mr. Meeks and I were talking to her, she shared that the big significant difference is what we've already heard from Mr. Meeks, and I've heard throughout meeting everyone tonight, is the relationships. The staff, the teachers, the administrators. Now, it didn't happen to not only help Mr. Meeks too, because while our conversation was going on with the 17-year-old student, she did have to make him look really good, so that was very impressive. I think that was chosen ahead of time, right, Mr. Meeks? Yeah. Give her an extra credit for that. No, I didn't say that. I also was able to speak to, just recently, Ms. Thomas. Where's Ms. Thomas? She's got to be in the room. No, one of our government teachers. She's the organizer of tonight, so I would like to say a thank you to her and all her work and the entire committee and the group. But what was kind of special about my conversation with her was about 2-3 seconds into our discussion, she's teary-eyed after Mr. Meeks says, oh, Ms. Hollinger would like to touch base with you, and she's in tears. Once again, I'm like, what did you say to her about me, Mr. Meeks? She shared with me her tears are from the students and memories of 20 years she's served here at Venture and 20 years of her career. So her whole career has been here at Venture. But when she was reflecting on what it made a significant difference to her as an educator, is that the team that she works with, and not just the team close by, 2 or 3 teachers and staff, but the entire campus and the administration and previous years' administration as well. When she went further in, she had me in tears about the extra effort the staff takes to make phone calls home to students when they don't arrive because they've slept in. It sounds like they're lazy, right? They've got a lot going on in their lives. We need untraditional systems and untraditional leaders, teacher leaders, student leaders, district leaders, that look at our students and the lives that they lead every day in today's society, and they do things different. When we look at our district, we have a great leader in place right now, Dr. Cavazos. Well, he's looking at his mission at making potential a reality for all our students, supporting our teachers and staff in the district and making that a reality as well in our practices every day. So it is my honor to introduce to you all tonight Dr. Cavazos, our Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, Beth, and let's give a round of applause for Greg Meeks, our principal. We haven't had a chance to do that. So thank you all for joining us today. Today is a special day. It's 30 years celebration here at Venture. And, you know, sometimes we talk about the what and the how in education. And the what has always been clear for Venture, always. The what is graduation. And when students come to Venture, they know that that is the big what that needs to occur, graduation. And so they work their credits, they work their non-traditional, as Beth said, experience, they work with teachers, they come, next year there'll be either a half day or full day, to get to that graduation. Some finish early, they have big celebrations on Fridays, etc. But the reality of venture, as powerful as the what is, it's the how. The how that happens every day at venture. Because the what is clear, and it's a goal, and kids, when they come in, or students when they come in, they know that. The graduation is in the forefront of their mind. What they don't know, or may not know when they walk into venture, is that as powerful as the what and that graduation is, it's the how they get there that they're never going to forget. That they're going to treasure for the rest of their lives. That's actually going to change their lives because of the interactions they have with other students, with the teachers, the principals, the staff, and everyone at venture. And it's important to note that as special as that is, it's really hard to sustain. And for venture to exist and sustain that 30 years, from the day that Lonny helped open it to today, that's been the engine at venture. It's been the how. And the kids, eventually, they get their diploma and all that, but what they remember and what they take with them as life skills is how they got there and the people that loved them along the way. And as I speak to students from venture, and I see them in the community, every time I see students, I ask, where do you go to school and things like that. And then I ask them, do you like school? Kind of what you were talking about, Greg. What do you like about school? And sometimes I get good answers. Sometimes I get a whole longer list than I ever wanted. But when I run into venture students, they like the independence, the support, the love that they feel at venture every day. And that's special. And to have that for 30 years is remarkable in Arlington. And we'll never know, and the teachers and the principals, all the people involved at venture, will never know the impact that they've had. They'll never know, because those students go on and they change other lives, and they change their family lives, and they change their own experience and how they see the world. And at venture, when you finish, you've learned skills that sometimes it takes people in their 20s and 30s to learn. Perseverance, hard work, tenacity, love for somebody else that's helping you, and the desire to help somebody else. And so venture has a reach across our entire district. That's another amazing part of venture, is that it's rooted everywhere in the district because students seek venture for their success. And so as you come in contact, and many of you have worked here, as you come in contact with venture and the staff and the students, just know that you're coming in contact with very special people. Very special people. Yes, because they get students to graduate. Absolutely. That's a very special thing to do. But more importantly is how they do it. And it's a lesson for all of us. It's a lesson for all our entire district. That the how in our educational experience can be exceptional and can change lives. And venture is an example. So congratulations to 30 years. Here's to another 100. What do you think? All right. So thank you.
Well, it's an exciting day when you think about 30 years and you think about the lives that have been changed. Many times students that would not have an opportunity to learn because someone didn't believe in them or because they weren't willing to use innovation to help our students learn. Venture is all about innovation. It's all about nurturing. It's all about love. And what a difference it makes in our kids' lives when suddenly they have somebody that believes in them and a path that has been shown to work. Then hope comes. The ability to learn comes. And suddenly we have something special when they graduate here from venture. Well, you may be asking yourself, why is the mayor here? Well, the mayor is here because I want to be supporting a very special school district. A school district that is making a difference, that is creating different paths for our students to be successful. So many different ways. Venture here our Career and Technical Center, the Dual Language Fine Arts Committee, our STEM. I could go on and on with the creativity that exists here in our school district, making sure to make a difference here, because now our students have an opportunity to be productive citizens, to be able to have families of their own, to be able to provide for them, to and hopefully to stay right here in Arlington. And of course, that's been what has happened for so many generations here, because so many of our kids and grandkids stay here in Arlington. That's something I was so impressed with when I moved here some 35 years ago. We want that to continue on. And in addition to that, one of the most important jobs a mayor has is to support education. And you're going to see that continue on here. And it's happened so much, and let's continue to build a legacy. Because I know when I moved here and my wife and I chose Arlington to come here, it was because of our school district. It made such a difference. Now, I have a special vested interest today too, because two people that are very special to me that my wife and I pray for are involved out here. First of all, Mr. Greg Meeks. It is so awesome to see how he has continued on his career and his dedication and perseverance, and then now to see where God has led him to make a difference here at Venture. And then Miss Krista Hanks, who happened to have married a young man that was in my 10th grade Sunday school, and to see that family come on, and now Krista to be one of six teachers here in the state, to be honored and to represent our school district and the work, and to represent Venture and what you're doing here, and to be recognized that it is something special. You know, really appreciate the extra effort and dedication that continues to happen with our teachers and principals. It is a dedication. It is a calling, in fact, to be teaching and taking care of our kids and to serve as principals. There's no way that you're doing it for the money, are you, Mr. Meeks? It is a definite calling to help our students and to make a difference in the youth. And then when I think about so many that have come out of this school that are making a difference, and I can't wait to hear from Miss Pickle and her experiences out of that first class that made such a difference. You know, our city has the tagline of the American Dream City. And you go, it sounds kind of pompous, doesn't it? But really, what it means is it's a challenge to each one of us to help each of our citizens achieve their American dream. And we all are working together now. Special things are happening here in our city because people are doing innovative things, and they're working together to make a difference here in our community. And they are giving back in a mighty way. Well, I need to introduce the next person who is giving back a whole lot and has been ever since she came here. And did you know that she happened to be in charge of human resources here at AISD and hired so many great teachers, and then now God has called her to start Mission Arlington, and back in 1986, and she has given back in so many great ways and helped to save families and to bring them together. God continues to use Tille, and I can't wait to hear from her right now. Miss Tille Burgin.
Let me ask you a little personal question. If you were any part of Stephen Burgin's life, would you mind just waving your hand maybe? Well, stand up. I think you deserve to. There you go. There you go. I didn't invite him to come today. He wanted to, but he's doing something else. But just, the remarks here of what we live with a young man that I can remember when he was in elementary school. He'd come to the mission after school. This guy wouldn't talk. He was socially, something was wrong with him. And I'd even remember going out to the car and just play your music for me. talk to me. You know, just because he'd sit in that car and be alone by himself. And so he, through the school system, and did okay. Everybody put up with him. He was okay. But the day that he got to come to Venture was a day that his life began to change. And no one could be more proud of a school and this place than the Burgins, because of the investment you made in that young man's life. And if you know him at all, you know the changes that took place. In fact, if you come to see me and anybody happens to mention Venture, I go to my little tape recorder and I play the song that was played and John sang at his Stephen's graduation. He was the only one that day that graduated and walked down that hallway with all of you, yelling and screaming and balloons. And I thought we were the only ones that had ever graduated from Venture High School. I mean, and that song was written just for us. I promise you. And if you'll come by, I will play it for you, and I'll still cry because of the change in this young man's. I mean, I don't know how many times you would drive by the mission and say, "How's he doing? Where is he?" I came by just to give him a hug. Well, nobody ever came by and gave me a hug. The intention that you gave this young man was huge. And yes, he went on. He graduated from from Wayland Baptist University with a degree in art of some kind. Gary, you may know better than I what he has, but I can tell you today, and he's applying for his master's, and he's leading one of the largest youth events at Mission Arlington, 7,000 and 8,000 students. He's the director of. And this is a young man that has personality. He sings, he talks, he doesn't hush. And so I just want to say that to you. And you never really get a chance to say thank you. And I think, John, you're going to sing that song a little bit later. And I'm going to have to slip out before you do. I know, but come by and sing it to me again. We are partners with this school. You say school kind of like you say church. It's not a building. It's about people. It's about kids. It's about sacrifice. It's about love that's unconditional. And we have experienced it as we'll get a call from the school. The kid needs a bicycle. We got it. We've given cars. We've given things that it's amazing how your teachers in this place care so much outside of the academics, outside of you talk about what the need is in a kid's life. That's where we get to. If they need a pair of shoes that will make them okay at the prom, we get them. And so I have appreciated the way the community, the school system, it takes a team of people to be part of a community that lives in such a way our kids grow up and they live here. They come back here. Their memories are here because they have been successful here. And I just thank God for you and the way we all work together as a team, whether it's a city or the school, churches, whatever we are, or happen to be students. It's alive and well. I thank you.
So I get to introduce Mr. Lonny Porter. He was our original principal. And I'm telling you, this comes from the bottom of my heart because other than my parents and my wife, I don't know of another adult that's had the direct and indirect influence on my life. He would be number 4. And that's something amazing to be said for me. Mr. Porter, I would say, is Venture School. I say that because Lonny's vision, his thinking outside of the box, his tenacious work ethic, his successful collaboration with many other non-AISD institutions and agencies, coupled with his persistent and capable ability of winning support from the key AISD administrators that together structured what Venture came to be. Starting with just 4 teachers, 1 social worker, and 1 counselor, a limited clerical and support staff, Lonny grew Venture. During his 15-year tenure, Venture grew to include 28 teachers, an assistant principal, 2 full-time social workers, a nurse, a school-age parent coordinator, along with a full-scale daycare that served the Venture's parenting students through the age of 3. The Travel Academy was a collaboration effort with American Airlines, and he secured multiple grants through the Job Training Partnership Act. Lonny also embraced the role that volunteers could serve and helped secure a strong group of dedicated volunteers. The lead volunteer, Mr. Phil, who's sitting over there, he's 93 years old. He was here for 24 years, and so there'll be many people very happy to see you, Mr. Phil. Lonny was, and his vision continues to be, the spirit of what Venture represents. And at the heart, Venture is a deep and empathic understanding that there are many students who, for a variety of reasons, don't fit in the traditional mold of public high school. A motto that Lonny often said was, these students have been kicked out, pushed out, shoved out from homes, relationships, and schools. He knew that these students desperately needed a different environment to recapture their sense of hope, an environment to help develop and realize their personal and academic potential. Mr. Porter not only created a supportive and positive environment for the students, but with high expectations and support, he helped develop Venture's teachers and staff members. Craig Wright, his first vice principal, cut his administrative teeth under Lonny's leadership, and Craig currently serves as AISD's Director of Technology, was a significant influence on the development of the Career and Tech Center. Venture's second vice principal, Ms. Regina Crane, now serves as the principal for Mansfield ISD Phoenix School and has done an outstanding job over there. But Lonny's influences don't stop there. He helped organize and develop the Texas Association of Alternative Education, that's TAAE. He served on the board as the treasurer. TAAE today is a thriving association helping to enhance and support the alternative educations throughout Texas. And during Mr. Porter's tenure, Venture was viewed as being on the cutting edge, and many school districts throughout the state toured Venture to help them generate ideas of how to develop their own alternative education programs. It was just cool watching all these different people come through it through years. Lonny is a consummate professional, a true visionary, and now carries with him the legacy of Venture High School. I respectfully welcome Lonny Porter to share some thoughts with us. He is the original driving force for Venture School. So, with no further ado, Mr. Lonny Porter.
I swear that he hacked into my computer. I don't know how he did it, but I worked for a whole day reminiscing about my time at Venture School and what we went through in establishing this program and getting it up and running. And it really does make my heart feel good to listen to what is being said here today. It's such a good feeling. Now, let me tell you about the history of Venture School. And I agree with everything these people have said, that the nurturing teachers and the loving atmosphere is what sets this school apart and aids students in achieving what they're unable to achieve in a regular 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 enrollment high school. We give them the personalized attention that they needed. Back in 1987, this school came about, voted into existence by the school board, but it started years before then. It started by a lady whose name was Mildred Helms. Mildred had a dream, and that dream was to create a program that would serve at-risk students and recovered dropouts. She had a passion for that. In 1987, she was in a position of executive director of secondary education where she could initiate such a program. And she carried this to the superintendent and advocated it. In that case, it was Don Wright. And it was presented to the Board of Education, and it was approved. The district, through Dr. Helms hired 4 classroom teachers that first year, 1 for each of the 4 course subjects, and 1 additional teacher to oversee what was called the Choices Program, which was an assignment, off-campus assignment school. Initially, there was a tug of war going back and forth as to what Venture School was going to be. Was it going to be an assignment school, an off-campus placement school, where students went for disciplinary reasons? Or was it going to be the school that she envisioned, a school that served at-risk students, not students who had some type of learning disability, but students who were bright, students who could achieve except for the stumbling blocks, I might say, in their life. Maybe it was a divorce in the family. Maybe it was a loss of a job, of a parent. Maybe it was being kicked out of school or kicked out of the home. Maybe it was discovering that you're pregnant. But whatever the situation was, these students could not function. Many of them just dropped out. It was too overwhelming. What Dr. Helms realized right up front was that in order for us to create a program that served these students and was successful in meeting their needs, they needed skilled people who were able to work with students such as this. So she called upon UTA, Graduate School of Social Work, and through working with them, Dr. Richard Dangle in particular, a social work program was established. That first year, it was manned by Ava Pickner and Franklin, Dr. Franklin, I had notes. My memory is terrible. Who? Cynthia, yes, Cynthia Franklin. Yes, she went on to University of Texas and got her doctorate degree, but anyhow, these people established the program of the social work. Their main function was to work with students to learn to cope with adversity and to help to overcome adversity, to deal with what they were having to deal with in life. After 1 year of my tenure, both Ava and Cynthia went on to other fields and or other assignments, and Dr. Dangle recommended a person to us to hire, which we did, and that was Connie Grossman. And Connie came in and took over that program, and she administered a social work intern program, which lasted for many, many years. So we not only got a full-time licensed social worker, but we also had graduate interns that provided services for our students. And then, of course, a couple of years later, we were able to bring on a second social worker, and that was scary because the demand was very, very great for that service. So I have always said that a lot of times, we get into situations with kids that before we can address their academic needs, we've got to address their social and emotional needs, and they were there to do that. And I appreciate you. One of the first things that I did after being, and I'll try to move on through this very rapidly since Gary had already covered quite a bit of my speech for me. One of the first things that I did was to reach out to the community, or to go out into the community and explain who we we are and who we're serving and what our role is in the Arlington ISD, because it's totally new. I did presentations at the Lions Club, the Kiwanis, the Rotary Club, the women's clubs, and that was a rewarding experience. Out of that, we were able to gain some volunteers that stayed with the program a lot longer than I did. Mr. Phil here, Tom Dodson, Tom Andrews are here, I think. Back in the back, John came out of that group, and they're still around and still volunteering part of their time after all those years, and they played a very, very important role doing the working one-on-one with the students, pulling them out of the classes, working with them in the library and what have you. But another responsibility was to go around to the individual high schools and explain the program to the principals. At that time, we had 5 high schools, and we had to educate the principals and the counselors in those schools. We had to be sure that they understood what the program was designed for. What are the eligibility criterias? What does the state define as an at-risk student that qualified for this program? They had to be a severe at-risk student, one that's 2 years below grade level, a student who was pregnant, or a school-age parent. Those were the criteria. We had to make sure that they were not loading students over on us that did not really fit the program. We did have an alternative school that choices, and then I got a call one day from the central office, and they said, Lonny, create a program out there for students that we are expelling. We don't want to send them home anymore. We want to send them out to your place for a long-term assignment, like for a semester or maybe even longer. Develop the program, give it a name, and we'll hire the teachers. So we came up with a name, Turning Point, and we were running along with Turning Point and Choices, which was a short-term program in addition to the regular venture school program. The district agreed with me that it is not good to have those two programs running together. You go out into the community and you say venture school, well, that's an assignment school, and that turned some of the prospective students off. So the district was very, very good in recognizing that and addressing that, and I think Little Elementary School building came available, and they moved that program out to Little, and as a junior high program, and then they expanded that to an elementary and then a high school, Turning Point. So that's working. That's a whole different story. Call me back in another 30 years, and I'll expand on that. But then another thing that I did was to reach out to the surrounding school districts. Some of them already had alternative programs. One being Carrollton Farmer Branch, program run by Bryce Jackson, called Grimes, and it was sort of what we considered to be the grandfather of alternative programs in this area, and he was certainly a great resource for me. Also, Keys Alternative School in HEB was another program that was formed about the same time that Venture School was. And then there was a program over in Irving, and one over in Birdville, and up in over in Fort Worth. And we started networking and meeting together on a monthly basis and sharing ideals back and forth with each other. And at the same time, I was on the telephone quite a bit talking to Dr. Sylvia Garcia down in Austin in TEA because she was over at-risk programs. And the message that I got from Dr. Garcia was that as long as you're serving at-risk students, it's pretty open to you. You create a program that will help students to succeed. And that's pretty much the direction that we got from the central office also. We were totally new. No one knew what the alternative schools' expectations were. And it was a wonderful opportunity. And I was really honored to start with a clean slate and develop the program. Coordination, we did a lot of coordination or collaboration with the community. In addition to collaborating with UTA right off the bat, we learned about the Tarrant County Workforce Development Board, and we learned that they had pots of money over there for serving school-age at-risk programs, at-risk students. So we filled out a RFP and presented it the first year, and it was totally rejected. The next year we went back and submitted another program, and this time it was a more conservative program. We were going to be paying vouchers to students who were being successful, so it would help cover part of their transportation to get them back and forth to school. And then the next year we became a little bit more aggressive, and we got a substantial amount of money and bought computers, bought softwares, and even paid the salaries of 4 teachers that I was allowed to hire. And that was a wonderful opportunity to advance the program. We continued to present RFPs to the Workforce Development Board for a number of years and continued to get grants, being awarded grants for 5 or 6 more years. We soon learned that our students who were pregnant, once they delivered, they were dropping out of school. They had to stay home, take care of their baby. They could not afford daycare. So we approached the Tarrant County Daycare Association, and we collaborated with them to develop and help us to put in a daycare center. And I hired Jerry Wright. Jerry, where are you? Jerry, from that, Jerry came to us from the Tarrant County Daycare Association, and she was very, very familiar with the rules and regulations for getting a license for a daycare center, and we established that, and it was been a successful program. It certainly saved a bunch of students there that otherwise we would have lost. Then it turned around and wrote a grant for a school bus, and probably one of the few schools to write a grant and buy a school bus. So bought a school bus in order to be a dedicated bus to transport the school-age parents, because they had to have their car seats to and from their homes to venture school. So I was very proud of that. Max Cope, the transportation director at the time, called me and said, "Lonny, we got the money to buy this bus. Do you want the roof of it white or do you want it yellow?" But anyway, the district picked up the maintenance and operations of the bus. We provided the bus. So they supported us there. A lot of our students were missing school because they had to go to see the doctor, whether it was prenatal or postnatal. appointments or whatever the situation was. So we saw the need for an on-campus clinic. There we approached John Peter Smith Hospital, UTA School of Nursing, and we collaborated with them to place a satellite clinic on our campus with a full-time nurse practitioner and regular nurse. And that too made a difference in the lives of so many of our students. Here between what you covered and I've covered, let's see. Oh, one other thing, the GED program, you know, try as you may, some situations were such that the students just could not stay with the program. Maybe they had to drop out to work, and that was the situation most of the time. So we were losing some students. I got on the telephone. I called the admissions office at Tarrant County College. I called military recruiters. I called Texas State Technical College in Waco. I called private schools such as DeVry, Lincoln Institute, all to see what the qualifications were for admission to their programs. And I discovered that, you know, some of these kids could get a GED and we could encourage them to go on into those programs. So we hired a GED teacher, and we had a GED preparatory program going full speed. After a year or so, we discovered that you know, some of these kids can't get to a testing center to be tested. There's not one here in Arlington, so we applied to the state of Texas for a license to become a GED test center. And we ran that for several years, and I think after I left, it may have gone on for a year or so. Is that right? And then it was discontinued. But that was a good program. I think the state may have changed some of the requirements for that. But anyway, that sort of gives you a background of what we were all about. And in closing, I just want to say that despite all the collaboration that we did with the businesses, it all came back to how successful were the teachers there in the classroom. The nurturing, the support, the commitment that they were making, they were the ones that were making a difference. And we had a bunch of fantastic teachers. And one of them I hired that first year is still with the district today, is still here at Venture School, and I would like to recognize her at this time. Susan Berry, would you stand up, please? I appreciate Susan, and I see that she has a lifetime eligibility staff member. So does that mean you get to come back and teach whenever you want to after you retire? But anyway, I was here and I left, but Susan came and she stayed, and she has made all the difference in the world for many students. And I would like to, before I sit down, I would like for all of those teachers to stand up, and also staff, Sylvia, that were involved with Venture School in those first 15 years that I was here. I see one of them who is now a high school principal, Andy. Yeah. Andy, I had to beg him to come on board. And I think he was working for Sylvia Learning Center. And I had heard so many good things about him from his mother-in-law, who worked down at the central office at the time. I got to get that guy. And it took a lot of talking, but I finally convinced him to come on board, and never regretted it. So thank you very much for listening to me.
I now have the honor of introducing Venture's second principal, Mr. John DeMore. Having walked into a well-oiled and humming machine, Venture School, our staff and students were pleasantly assured with Mr. DeMore's philosophical beliefs and professional leadership. From his first days at Venture School, John continued to grow Venture, and Venture flourished under his leadership, including adding additional 10 teachers. He took on the task and development of adding the 9th grade center. Under his leadership, there were several years that nearly 300 students graduated each year from Venture. John is a passionate and a dedicated leader, and during his time at Venture, he embraced the challenge of serving to the best of his capacity and the Venture students. He served Venture with a genuine sense of love and kindness that truly inspired hope. Every student who walked through Venture's door felt respected, cared about, and connected to education and lifelong learning. Mr. DeMore's leadership and support encouraged Venture staff towards professional growth and performance. John hired our nurse, Miss Cannon there, who got recognized as the Nurse of the Year in the entire nation, and the first time that ever happened in a public school. And he hired her and supported her, so that was awesome. Then Miss Regina Crane, I'm so glad you're here. He hired her and helped her develop in her professional capacity as an assistant principal. And that may in part, now she did get to work under Lonny Porter too, and that may explain in part why she is so good. She got both of them. But she is awesome, and so Mansfield's very lucky to have you. Speaking of quality, Mr. DeMore hired Andy Andy Hagman as his assistant principal. John helped guide Andy's professional growth and his administrative knowledge and skills. And today, Andy serves as Lamar's principal. Lamar and AISD, no doubt, very fortunate to have you on board. You're a solid leader. John DeMore is fondly remembered not only for his leadership and kindness, but he is also known for his singing. John is a professional musician and utilized his gift of music to create a graduation song for Venture's graduates. And we will be treated to that song, I guess, here shortly. Combining his musical talent with his endeavor to find resources for Venture, John attended different civic groups, speaking and playing for them, and then passing the hat. And he had come back with some change. He had generated over $1,000 each year for Venture School. So he was out there and singing to the ladies and getting the money. Anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to the podium Mr. John DeMore.
You know, these are hard acts to follow. It was an easy act, though, following Mr. Porter. Oh my gosh, listening to him speak, I had forgotten so much of what I took for granted when I came in, and some of the battles that he had to go through to get things set up. And so I really did walk into a very nicely running school. I mean, things were going really, really well. I remember one of my first conversations with Lonny, with Mr. Porter. We were both on vacation. I don't know if Lonny remembers this or not, but I hooked up with him in a Dairy Queen in Decatur or something like that. Lonny, you were going one way, I was going the other, and we struck up a little conversation about schools and stuff. And it was just, I was so impressed with what was going on in Venture. It stuck in my mind. And so this job was posted, and I applied for it, and I'm so thankful that I got it. I remember vividly running through the parking lot at AISD to go into the interview committee. They called, and I was ready to go, and about a half an hour later, and I thought I was late. And I was saying, oh man, I've blown it, I'm late. So my first interview with the committee was I was out of breath and could hardly talk because I ran full speed into the committee. I want to thank those folks for hiring me. It was wonderful. So Lonny taught me so much of what he has taught y'all about what the job entails, what he went through to put Venture together. And what I learned is, you know, and what I'd like to say about Venture is a place where magic happens. We had the ability of going in and talking to students. I love the intakes. Those were great, where I get to meet the new group of students. There was nothing more close to my heart than to be able to tell a group of kids that, guys, here's the test. When you're big enough and bad enough to pass this, you're out of here. You go to the next course. And they couldn't believe that, you know, you could go in a self-paced course, pass the test, do the work, and you didn't have to be in there 6 weeks. You could be in there much less. And Mr. Grossman was telling me, I think they just set a record for number of credits in a semester. That appealed to so many very bright students that came to Venture, that applied, who just needed the opportunity to show people what they knew, who didn't really want to sit in the seats that long. So it was a wonderful thing. Another thing I remember very, very much on one of my first visits talking to Lonny and finding out things, I walked into the campus and met one of my first Venture students, and she said to me, looked me right in the eye and said, "Are you ready for us?" And frankly, I was coming from an elementary background, and I wasn't sure, but really, really quickly I learned, and you know, you guys in the room, you don't take this wrong, but the Venture students were children. Not children, but still learning, still wonderful people, young adults, I'll say that to you guys, needed our help. And Venture was the place where they got that. I learned so much from the people I worked with, and I can't name everybody. Miss Crane's over there, and she, you know, just kind of led me through things. Y'all remember Georgia Clements? Miss Georgia, oh my gosh. That lady, her thing that she told me was, we may be an alternative school, but we're never going to look alternative or act alternative. And she had things together and made it happen. It was wonderful, wonderful. The most thrilling thing about Venture was the caring of the staff for the students. One of the things that I learned in my college education I've held on to forever is the number one predictor of a student's success in school is that student's bone deep belief that the teacher cares about their success. And Venture had that. Teachers really cared about what happened to the students, and it wasn't fake. And it was so nice to get in and again, talk to the students and let them know that we were going to work with them. Social work department, Connie and Gary. Discipline at Venture, when I was working there, the first call was, yeah, come to the office, sit down, cool off, before I pass sentence or whatever it would be. Social work. Let's find out what's really going on. That could not be done at a regular high school. It is a wonderful, amazing thing that happened here. And then Mr. Hagman and I, when I got him as an assistant principal, plotted and schemed for the 9th grade center. We learned a lot about that. I remember, I think Marcelo told me I must be crazy trying to get all the 9th graders in one place and you know, working with them. But we learned some lessons from that. And but it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. The main thing is I'm just so happy to be here, and you know, I can't add much to what Mr. Porter said other than I had a wonderful tenure here. I miss so much of the people helping, and like I said, they helped me be a better principal, and it is so nice to be out in the community and find students walking up and recognizing me and not turning their heads and trying to get away as fast as they can, but approaching me and, don't you remember me, Mr. And I love that, and I think that's what we did. Relationships with students and a curriculum that worked for so many students that it didn't at other campus. So, all right, I've been asked to sing this song. It's been a long time since I've done this, so I don't know. We'll see what happens. So I'm gonna try that and see what happens. So when I would go in and tell the students I was going to sing for them, I kind of had a little joke. It's like, if you're going to get in Venture, you have to endure this. You have to listen to it. It's just what it is. And they would. And sometimes they didn't know where to look, and I had butterflies. And it was kind of an example of taking a risk. So I would take a risk with them. You know, they didn't know what was coming. I didn't know how they would do. But we did it, and it became a tradition. And as Tille was saying, I don't know, it just kept on going, right? You were all right for a while. You could smile for a while. Your free time had to end, at least you'll see your friends. You stopped to say hello. You were adventure now, and we see how. You were crying over rules, crying over school, even though you had to moan. We didn't leave you all alone, alone and crying, 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 yes, crying. You know it won't be long until you're gone. You're graduating. You're setting goals and reached them too. And it's true, so true. You've been working even more than you did before. The staff was here for you. Yes, the past is gone, and from this moment on, you've been trying to graduate, trying, we just can't wait. Not a single credit left. You made it with some help. You're graduating, 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 graduating. You made it through. You're gonna graduate from school. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love you guys. Thanks.
I'm really here just to introduce the first graduating class member, but I do have to say something because, you know, I met the speaker. I'm really blessed to be here. I've had kids that, last year I had a kiddo that she enrolled, and at intake I'm like, you look familiar. And she hugged me and she's like, I was in your kindergarten class. And so I got to see her from the beginning to the end. And then even this year, I have about 12 kids who've come through that I was either their counselor at Bowie or at Carter or even at Corey. And so it's amazing the things that we do. And I'm blessed to be a part of it, just to see just a glimpse of success in some of the students that were kind of lost where they came from, and there seemed to be no hope for them until they walked through the doors of Venture. And it makes me want to cry because I love these kids, and our teachers love these kids, because they could go work anywhere, but they chose to be here to make a difference in the lives of our babies. And so, man, I'm shaking because this is awesome. Okay, so I would just like to introduce Jennifer Pickle. She was the first, one of the first members of the graduating class. I think there were 6 of you guys. Yeah, not very many. But I learned that last year because she works in textbooks, and being the assistant principal, I have to deal with textbooks. And so we started communicating. We've had lots of good stories, and so I'll let her share some of those things. So if you'll just help me welcome Jennifer Pickle.
Ever since I walked in and sat down, I've been overwhelmed with emotion. And I never thought it would hit me like this. But when I first came to Venture, I wasn't real happy. wasn't real happy of being there because I lost all my friends in high school, okay? That's what I thought. I went to Lamar High School, and I have a twin brother. And my parents went through a divorce, and it was overwhelming for me. And I decided, I don't need school anymore. It's not gonna take me where I wanna go. That's what I thought. And the day that we got out for Christmas break, I heard on the overhead, and it was Mrs. Denson, Linda Denson. Do y'all remember her? And it said, Jennifer Bagnall, come to the office. And I thought, my goodness, I can't go to the office now. Everybody's leaving. I mean, you know how kids leave at Christmas break. They run out the door. So I went to the office, and I thought, well, where's my twin brother? He's gone, you know, he's leaving without me. And so she said, sit down. I sat down, and she pushed the button. It dialed my mom's phone. Her name was Linda also. She said, Linda, this is Linda. Jennifer's in the room. And so on that speaker phone, she said, Miss Denson has a place that you're going to be going to. You're not coming back to Lamar. And I was devastated. I thought, oh my goodness, I failed during the middle of the school year. They're kicking me out. They told me I was going to go to a new school in Arlington called Venture. And I thought, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I'll do right. I'll do my grades. I'll get my grades up. I promise you I will. And so anyway, she said, no, you're going to go to Venture. I've been talking about it with your mother, and she'll tell you the rest of it when you get home. All during Christmas break, it was horrible. And that day I had to come. I had a car, so I drove to Venture. Mom said, I'm not taking you. You're going to drive yourself. And I pulled up at this school, and there were probably 4 teachers' cars in the parking lot. And I went inside. I parked there because I thought, well, there's no other kids parking here. I must be in the wrong parking lot. So I parked with those few cars, and I went down the hallway, and sure enough, my counselor from Lamar High School, Margie Austin, does anyone remember Miss Austin? She's walking towards me, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how did my mom pull this one off? First I have to leave Lamar, and then there's my counselor. And of course, Miss Denson and Miss Austin were always on me. It was my own fault, you know, I wasn't doing my work. So she said, I'm gonna take you to your first class. And when I walked in the classroom, there were different kids of different ages, you know, and I thought, I think I'm older than all these kids, you know? And everybody's like, what are you here for? What are you here for? I'm here the same reason as y'all, you know? I wasn't doing my work. I needed to get my credits to graduate high school. So in that time of being at Venture, it was very unusual because we'd get a phone call, and our group, the oldest group, you know, we seniors, would get called outside to have our pictures taken or to be on the news. And we were thinking, what is this? You know, what is going on with this school? What is it about this school? And you know, it was the beginning of this alternative school like y'all were speaking. And it made the headlines, you know. And we thought, this is crazy. You know, this is pretty neat. And I'd go home and I was like, we're going to be in the newspaper. And then, of course, my mom would have a newspaper a couple of days later or a couple of weeks later, and sure enough, there I was. And they always brought us kids, you know, a copy of that newspaper so that we could save it. And I remember one time, I actually had this boyfriend that I was dating. And I would fly down to Houston to see him. He went to Lamar High School, and he graduated and was going to go to University of Houston. So at that time, I would fly down there and visit him as I was getting my grades brought up. And since my parents were divorced, my dad said, okay, well, I'll pay for your flight down there as long as you stay with his grandparents. So on the way back from Houston, we're sitting on the tarmac, and we couldn't leave because there was a tornado in Conroe. And so we're sitting there, and I'm sitting right next to this gentleman, and he said, what college do you go to? And I said, oh, I thought to myself, well, I could lie, and I could have this big, huge, long story, because he doesn't know me, and I'll never see him again. Well, instead I said, you know, I go to school in Arlington, Texas. I go to a school called Venture, and it's an alternative school that just started. It's a new program. And he said, I'm the superintendent in Lubbock, Texas. And I said, oh, really? And I was thinking, oh, no, I better shut up now. Instead, he said, I've heard all about your school. And I thought to myself, really? And he said, yes, I've heard all about venture. And so he starts talking about it, and of course he made sense. I was thinking, okay, well, he's not pulling the wool over my eyes like I thought I was going to do with him for a second. He was a really nice gentleman. And I went back home, of course, and told my mom all about it. And then we were always, our little group of friends, I mean, we didn't have that many kids, you know. It was a very small school, very, very small at the time. Knox Elementary, right? And I was only senior with a vehicle, so I could take the older classmen, you know, out to lunch, and we would go to Jack in the Box because we could afford those tacos, you know, those 50-cent tacos. I see this gentleman down here laughing. And so sometimes they'd say, can we go somewhere else? I was like, no, I have to pay for my own gasoline, you know? And back then, some of the kids would have to sit in the back of the truck, and that was legal. I don't know if it still is now, but I'd say sit on your bottoms because I don't want to get in trouble. And anyway, it was very interesting the time I had there. I loved all the teachers. I thought they were great. I thought it was amazing that I could actually do almost a whole entire year in just this end of the semester for my senior year. I mean, I did a lot of catching up to do. I had a lot of catching up to do. And I had to walk across that stage with my twin brother. And the one thing that I regret is not being able to walk across the stage like y'all are going to be able to do, you know, with your peers here. And so the seniors that year, we were from different schools, except for there were 2 other kids that went to school with me at Lamar that actually went from elementary, junior high, and high school with me. And so we all lived in the same vicinity. But I met a lot of people, and it was a good thing. And I'm proud I went there. And I hope and pray that you kids, that y'all realize that this is just it's a big stepping stone. But in the reality of things, you're going to look back and think, you know what? This is what my foundation was built on. That you can go wherever you set your mind to. Okay? So be proud of this. Be proud of this moment. And so whatever you set your mind to, you can do it. Anything and everything. You know, the sky's the limit. And I'm certainly proud of being here. And I appreciate y'all inviting me. I really do. It's a great program. And I hope to see another 30 years, like one of you said, okay? I'll be old then. Thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. DeMore bringing smiles and Miss Pickle bringing tears. It does make a difference. It does. For an alternative school to have a PALS program that's a student leadership program, pretty unique. The things we do here are unique. Today, we're going to start a new tradition, a tradition of celebration of excellence and dedication. Today, we start the Venture Lifetime Achievement Award, something we started at Carter. I kind of felt, you know, we should recognize teachers. Teachers that have been a staff here 20 plus years, and that's staff, teachers, staff, anyone. And they continually grow within their craft. It's so easy to become, just do the normal, become sedentary, kind of just laid back. Let me ride it out to retirement. And so these teachers that you see on your program, there's no order to it, so I didn't alphabetize it, my apologies. But today it's only fitting that we celebrate an individual that arrived at Venture on the 2nd year. Our inaugural recipient has taught at Venture for 29 years, a total of 39 years. That's a good long time. It's almost 4 decades. On any given day, our recipient could have 3 different preps, also with the students taking fall or spring, so really that's like 6 if you know teaching. With all that, trial runs, changes, moves within buildings, and varying classrooms, even a small little practice room last year in the choir room. I'll show you if you want to see it. It was really small. No matter what, Miss Berry's always had a smile on her face. She just goes with it, and she does what's best. I talked to her the other day, and yes, we still do evaluations. And I was talking to her, and she's got her blended learning. She's already started working on it. So even after all these years, she's embracing blended learning and where we're going as a campus. So today we celebrate Miss Susan Berry. We honor her to serve alongside her. So please come on stage so I can give you your award. One of our students we got to recognize this year with the school board in April, Alexis Danford. I don't think she's here, but definitely she was a shining star of Venture. Also want to recognize Miss Gillespie, as well as she's our teacher of the year, so she was here. Mr. Kunkel and Miss Cavazos were our aware teachers of the year, so if they could stand up. Mr. Williams stole my thunder, but as well as Miss Hanks, we nominated, it's Texas Teachers, an alternative program, and we have two, and I would be remiss if I didn't say that Miss Beaver and Miss Hanks is nominated, but we only get one, and so they chose one, and so there we have Miss Hanks, but they've collaborated and worked together, and so Miss Hanks, the only one in Arlington, the only one in the area. It is a social media vote, and I think you can vote more than once. So we're behind about 900 votes, so please go vote. But anyway, all that to say is I like to recognize people, because people is what makes things happen. And I know it's been long, but it only happens every 30 years. So I'm sorry, we've gone over into the food a little, and I appreciate everybody's patience. But we have lots of food and lots of refreshments and student work and virtual reality. So thank you all for being here.